On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Cleopatra VII, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, met her end in 30 BCE under circumstances that have been debated for centuries. Most accounts point to suicide by asp bite, though others suggest she may have used poison or been murdered under Roman orders. Her death came at the climax of intense political upheaval. Egypt had been caught between the waning power of the Hellenistic world and the rising dominance of Rome. Following the defeat of her forces, and those of her ally and lover Mark Antony, by Octavian, later Augustus, at the Battle of Actium, Cleopatra faced the collapse of her reign and the humiliation of being paraded as a prisoner in Rome. The manner of her death reflected both the values of her era and the fiercely political nature of survival in antiquity. In the Greco-Roman world, suicide could be framed as an act of defiance and control, a way to preserve honor in the face of inevitable defeat. Cleopatra's decision denied Octavian the spectacle of her public humiliation, asserting her agency even in her final moments. Her passing marked the end of Ptolemaic Egypt and ushered in Roman rule, turning Egypt into a Roman province and closing a chapter on the great Hellenistic monarchies. In the immediate aftermath, Cleopatra's death was both a propaganda victory for Octavian and the birth of a legend. Roman accounts often painted her as a dangerous seductress, weaving her into moral tales about the corrupting influence of Eastern luxury and feminine wiles. Yet later portrayals, especially in Renaissance and Romantic art and literature, reimagined her as a tragic heroine, a ruler caught between love and duty, power and vulnerability. Her legend was amplified over time through works like Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, Renaissance paintings depicting her final moments in lush, dramatic style, and 20th century film portrayals that cemented her image in popular culture. These depictions often blend historical fact with myth, reflecting humanity's tendency to remember powerful figures not just for what they did, but for the symbolic resonance of their life and death. Cleopatra's death reveals the enduring human fascination with the interplay between mortality and power. In her final act, she embodied both resistance and inevitability, crafting a legacy that survived far longer than her kingdom. Through art, theater, and historical retelling, we immortalize such figures not only for their deeds, but for the emotional and political narratives we attach to them. Reminders that death, in the hands of history, can be as potent a force as life. Jeffrey Epstein, the American financier and convicted sex offender, died on August 10, 2019, in his jail cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. Officially ruled a suicide by hanging, his death came as he awaited trial on federal charges of sex trafficking involving underage girls. However, the circumstances, broken cameras, irregular guard checks, and Epstein's high-profile connections to powerful figures in politics, business, and royalty, fueled widespread public skepticism and conspiracy theories. Epstein's death reflected deep challenges of the era: distrust in institutions, the fragility of justice in cases involving elite networks, and the public's hunger for accountability in the wake of the Me Too movement. Many saw his passing as a tragic derailment of potential justice for survivors, robbing them of the chance to see a full public trial that might have exposed the full scope of his crimes and connections. The immediate consequences were a surge of outrage, speculation, and political finger-pointing. Federal investigations expanded to include how such a high-risk detainee could die under supposed close watch, and civil suits against his estate multiplied. His death also intensified scrutiny of those in his orbit, from celebrities to former heads of state, leaving reputations tarnished by association. Rather than amplifying Epstein's personal legend, his death cemented him as a dark symbol, representing corruption, exploitation, and the failures of systems meant to protect the vulnerable. His name became shorthand for the idea that wealth and influence can shield predators from accountability, a cautionary tale that transcends the specifics of his case. In terms of cultural memory, Epstein has been immortalized not through reverence, but through relentless public discourse, satire, investigative journalism, and documentaries. Dramatizations, podcasts, and exposés continue to probe his life, revealing a collective determination to uncover what a trial never could. This reflects how society sometimes commemorates infamous figures not to honor them, but to ensure their misdeeds and the systemic flaws they reveal are not forgotten. Epstein's death underscores humanity's uneasy relationship with mortality and power. In life, he wielded influence to evade consequences. In death, he became a catalyst for distrust and a symbol of unfinished justice. The persistence of his story shows that history often remembers the notorious as vividly as the noble, not because of admiration, but because their downfall exposes uncomfortable truths about the systems we live in and the limits of accountability. Isaac Hayes, the pioneering soul musician, composer, and actor, died on August 10, 2008, at the age of 65. Found unresponsive in his Memphis home, the official cause was a stroke, a natural death likely linked to ongoing health issues, including high blood pressure. His passing came at a time when he had re-emerged in the public eye, touring, recording, and acting, after decades of shaping the sound of American music. Hayes's death reflected broader societal themes of his era, particularly the enduring legacy of the civil rights movement and the cultural power of African American artistry. Rising to fame in the 1960s as a key figure at Stax Records, he became a symbol of Black creativity and self-determination, especially with his groundbreaking 1969 album Hot Buttered Soul and the Oscar-winning theme for Shaft. In the decades before his death, Hayes's career illustrated both the resilience and vulnerabilities of artists navigating an industry often exploitative toward Black talent. His passing, while peaceful compared to the violent or scandalous ends of other cultural icons, nonetheless resonated deeply because it marked the loss of a voice that had bridged multiple eras of Black music, from classic soul to pop culture stardom. The immediate consequence of his death was an outpouring of tributes from fellow musicians, actors, and fans worldwide. His hometown of Memphis honored him, and music historians revisited his contributions not only as a performer, but also as a songwriter and producer who helped shape the sound of Stax alongside legends like Otis Redding and Sam and Dave. Hayes's absence also rekindled discussions about the health challenges faced by aging musicians, particularly African American men, who often contended with high-pressure lifestyles and systemic barriers to healthcare. Hayes's death amplified his legend in the sense that it prompted a renewed appreciation for the sophistication and ambition of his work. Lush arrangements, deep baritone vocals, and a sense of artistic authority that inspired generations. It also solidified his cultural presence beyond music, from his role as chef on South Park to his activism and humanitarian work in Ghana. In remembering Isaac Hayes, society has immortalized him through posthumous awards, reissues of his albums, and portrayals in documentaries and museum exhibits. His legacy reveals how mortality can catalyze a broader recognition of an artist's impact, transforming individual loss into a collective act of commemoration. It underscores humanity's impulse to enshrine those whose creativity not only entertained, but also spoke to larger struggles for identity, dignity, and cultural pride. Hayes's life and death remain a reminder that art can outlive the artist, resonating long after the final note fades. Freeman Jr., the acclaimed American actor and director, died on August 9, 2012, at the age of 78 in Washington, D.C. The cause of death was natural, following a life dedicated to stage, film, and television. His passing was quiet compared to the public spectacle of many celebrity deaths, yet it reflected the dignity and integrity with which he lived and worked. Freeman's career unfolded during a transformative era for African American performers. Rising to prominence in the 1960s and 1970s, he was part of a generation breaking through Hollywood's systemic barriers, earning recognition for complex, dignified portrayals at a time when opportunities for Black actors were severely limited. His death marked the loss of a performer who had not only excelled in his craft, but also embodied the struggles and slow progress of representation in American media. The immediate consequences of his passing were heartfelt tributes from colleagues, students, and institutions. Freeman had been a beloved professor at Howard University, shaping a new generation of actors. His influence in the classroom was perhaps as significant as his screen roles, which included his Emmy-winning turn as Malcolm X in the 1979 miniseries Roots: The Next Generations. His portrayal of the civil rights leader was groundbreaking in its nuance and respect, offering a counterpoint to reductive media portrayals of Black activists. While Freeman's death did not radically shift the course of history, it amplified his legacy within the performing arts community. In the aftermath, theater companies, universities, and civil rights organizations revisited his work, celebrating how he brought depth to Black characters on stage and screen. His passing became a reminder that cultural change often rests on the steady contributions of individuals who challenge stereotypes quietly but persistently. In the broader context of humanity's relationship with mortality, Freeman's death reinforces the idea that some legacies are built not through grand gestures or sudden tragedy, but through decades of consistent excellence. While public memory often clings to the sensational, figures like Freeman are immortalized through ongoing education, mentorship, and the endurance of their work in performance archives. Today, Freeman Jr. is remembered through retrospectives of his films, tributes from Howard University, and his influence on students who carry forward his lessons. His life and death reveal that power in the arts lies not only in fame, but in the ability to open doors for others, and in doing so, leave an enduring mark that outlives the performer themselves. Eddie Gourmet, the celebrated American singer known for her smooth, emotive voice and timeless interpretations of pop and Latin music, died on August 10, 2013, in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the age of 84. The cause of death was natural, following a long life devoted to her art. Her passing marked the end of an era that valued the elegance, sophistication, and vocal precision of the great American songbook. Gourmet rose to prominence in the 1950s and 1960s, a time when popular music was in flux, balancing traditional big band influences with the growing dominance of rock and roll. Alongside her husband and musical partner, Steve Lawrence, she carved out a space for refined vocal artistry in a rapidly shifting entertainment landscape. Her career also bridged cultures. Her 1964 album Amor, sung entirely in Spanish, became a massive hit in Latin America and remains a testament to her cross-cultural appeal. Her death prompted an immediate wave of tributes from musicians, fans, and institutions. For many, Gourmet was a symbol of a more intimate, romantic era of performance, where the singer's role was to connect deeply with the audience through interpretation rather than spectacle. Fellow artists noted that her technical skill and emotional sincerity set a standard rarely matched in later decades. The loss also rekindled interest in her recordings, leading to renewed appreciation for the craft and discipline that defined mid-century American pop music. While her passing did not alter the course of world events, it did amplify her legend within the musical community. In a digital age often driven by fleeting trends, Gourmet's career became a touchstone for the enduring value of vocal excellence and interpretive depth. The fact that she achieved lasting success without scandal or controversy also stood out, offering a counter-narrative to the often tumultuous lives of public figures. Gourmet's death reflects a broader truth about humanity's relationship with mortality and memory. Our cultural heroes often represent the ideals we fear losing. In her case, it was the ideal of artistry built on skill, respect for the material, and a personal connection with the audience. We immortalize figures like Gourmet through the preservation of their recordings, documentaries, and live performance footage, ensuring that their contributions remain part of our shared cultural heritage. Her voice, preserved in vinyl grooves and digital archives, continues to evoke the grace of a bygone era. In remembering her, we reaffirm the belief that artistry, when grounded in authenticity, can transcend both time and death. Rosemary LaBianca's death was the tragic result of violent crime during one of the most turbulent and unsettling moments in late 1960s America. On August 10, 1969, she and her husband Leno LaBianca were murdered in their Los Angeles home by members of the Manson family, a cult led by Charles Manson. The killings came just one day after the infamous Tate murders, and together they became emblematic of the dark undercurrent of the era, a period marked by cultural upheaval, distrust, and the erosion of the peace and love ideals of the 1960s counterculture. The LaBianca murders were not random acts of brutality in the ordinary sense. They were part of Manson's twisted vision of inciting a race war he called Helter Skelter, inspired by his apocalyptic interpretations of the Beatles' music. Rosemary, a successful businesswoman who co-owned a boutique, represented to Manson's followers the symbols of middle-class stability and wealth they sought to disrupt. The sheer senselessness and brutality of her death reflected not only the extremism of fringe cult movements, but also the vulnerabilities of a society experiencing rapid cultural and generational fracture. The immediate consequences were widespread fear and moral panic across Los Angeles and beyond. At the time, the murders shattered the city's image as a haven for creativity and affluence, replacing it with an atmosphere of suspicion and dread. They also intensified police efforts, leading to one of the most highly publicized criminal investigations in American history. The trial of Charles Manson and his followers became a media spectacle, symbolizing the corruption of youthful idealism into violence and chaos. Rosemary LaBianca's death amplified the broader cultural narrative of the end of the 60s, serving as a grim punctuation mark on a decade that began with hope for change but ended in disillusionment. Her name, like Sharon Tate's, became forever linked to the Manson murders, transforming her into a tragic symbol rather than solely a private individual. Her death underscores humanity's uneasy relationship with mortality, power, and memory, how violence can both destroy lives and cement them in public consciousness. Figures like LaBianca are immortalized not through personal achievements alone, but through the historical weight of the events that claimed them. In books, documentaries, and dramatizations, her story serves as both cautionary tale and cultural marker, a reminder of how fragile the veneer of safety can be and how quickly an era's optimism can be eclipsed by horror.